Welcome back to the channel, and today we need to talk more about Macs and which one you should buy. So the Mac lineup has had a bit of a shake-up over the past week or so. We've got the new M4 chips, we've got a new iMac, we've got a new MacBook Pro, we've got a new Mac Mini, and all of these devices are great. They all cost a lot of money, so what I want to do in this video is to give you a buying guide of which Mac is right for you, and which one you should look at and which one you should buy. So now we have most Macs upgraded to the new M4 chip, which is a big power boost over the M3 chip I found from my testing. But that doesn't mean that everyone needs to buy the M4 Max. It doesn't mean everyone needs to go out and buy an M4 Pro MacBook Pro or an M4 Max MacBook Pro and spend £4,000 on it. It just means we've got something for everyone, and you need to look at the lineup and decide what's right for you. And this video is going to help you do that. I'm going to go over each Mac in the lineup, and I'll tell you who it's for and who should buy what and what configuration is best. So where I want to start with the MacBook Air lineup. So I've currently got a MacBook Air M3 with 16GB of RAM, the 512GB hard drive. That cost me £1,700 back in April. I love using it, it's a great device. This hasn't been upgraded to the M4 chip, but they have given it a boost to 16GB of RAM. So this is for Apple Intelligence. So now we've gone from having 8GB of RAM, and for all of you that don't know what RAM is, it essentially means that it's the amount of memory the computer has to process applications you're running there and then. So if you've got, say, a web browser open, Photoshop open, or video editing, or anything like that, this will all be in the RAM. And the more RAM you have, the more memory the computer has without having to go to the hard drive, and it makes it faster. So it's a great thing that Apple have given us 16GB of RAM and all the Mac Air lineup. This was like a sort of a secret. They didn't announce this at all. They kind of bumped up the specs without telling anyone in the MacBook Air. But I think it's a great thing, because you can now start at $1,299. You can get a MacBook Air M2 for $999, and these are all going to have 16GB of RAM. So a lot of you may be wondering, should I even buy the Air with the M3 chip in it anymore? Because these M4 chips are out now, should I go for a MacBook Pro? So I do still think the Air has a market. It is a thin and light laptop. It has no fan in it, so it's very quiet. It's got a great battery life. It has fantastic screens. You've got two choices of screens. You've got a 13-inch screen, you've got a 15-inch screen. You've got about 4 different colors. You've got Starlight, Midnight. I've got the Midnight one. It looks fantastic. It wears really well. It feels a really steady laptop. I've been very happy with the laptop. However, it isn't for everyone, and it isn't something that you should just buy on the whim. You should think about this carefully, because the MacBook Air does not have a fan on the chip. So if you're doing anything like photo editing, video editing, anything creative, then you need to make sure you're going for the Pros. The Pros have a fan in them and will keep that chip much cooler. So the main problem I had when I started doing this channel is I was video editing on the MacBook Air M3. It did it fine and for about half an hour, but as soon as I started rendering video, you'd feel the bottom of the laptop getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and eventually it would slow right down and the render time would take 20-30 minutes. So this just wasn't quick enough for me, so I ended up having to buy an M4 Mac to do that. But that's just my personal use of it, so if you don't do anything like that, the M3 chip will be absolutely fine. So don't think it's a product you shouldn't consider. If you're just doing office-based work, anything like that, and you want a decent laptop to carry around on the move, be a light one, you've got to go for the Air. It's a great device, but try it out in the Apple shop first. So they also do the MacBook Air with the M2 chip in it for £1,000. Now this offers really good value for the money, because the M2 chip is no slouch. It still performs admirably in everyday tasks. So again, office work-based tasks, even some light photo editing, it will be fine for, and you get that 16GB of RAM boost. You also get Apple Intelligence included. So please consider the M2 13-inch Air if you need a budget laptop for schoolwork, anything like that. It's going to be a great choice. Don't start speccing that up with loads of memory. You can change the configuration. Don't do that on that base model. Just buy the base model. You can plug an external hard drive in if you need more than 256GB of storage. But please don't spec it up more, because if you're going to do that, you may as well buy the M3 version. So there is a market for the M2 one, so buy that if you're going for school, You want lighter business use, buy the M3 version if you want a big screen, so you can't get the 15-inch screen in the M2 version, or you need a bit more power and you want a bit more future-proofing. Another thing to say is don't configure the MacBook Air M3 either over the £2,000 mark, because if you're going to do that, you may as well go for a MacBook Pro. I appreciate that some people will like the Air form factor and it's nice and slim, but have a look at the MacBook Pro 14-inch if you're going to spec it up high, because these are really good value for money now, and they will have a substantially more power and a bit more future-proofing. But we'll go over that next. So next we'll cover the MacBook Pro. So the MacBook Pro starts at $1,599, and for that you get the 14-inch screen, you get the standard M4 chip, and you get 512GB hard drive with 16GB of RAM. So this offers better value for money than ever before. Last year's model had the standard M3 chip in it. It only had 8GB of RAM, and it wasn't going to be adequately performance for the Pro model. It shouldn't have had the Pro name for that specification, but now it suits its Pro name. So you may be asking yourself this question: should you go Pro, or should you stick with the Air? So what I'm going to do now is go for the disadvantages and advantages of going for a MacBook Pro. So the MacBook Pro is aimed at professional creators essentially, or anyone who uses the laptop for video work, 3D design. That's where it originally started from. But I think also the base model has a market for home use. So if you look at the price, $1,599 compared to the Air. So the Air, if you go for I went for the 1699 model. So the difference basically is you can have a thicker chassis on the Pro. So this has a fan in it. So the fan will keep the CPU cooler. So you can run more intensive tasks on the Pro than you can't do on the Air. So if you did a bit of light video editing, photo editing, you will notice that the Pro should keep cooler and it should perform better over sustained longer periods of time. So if you're going to use it for work and you're going to do a lot of photo, video work, you should get the Pro, not the Air. One thing that's good about the Pro as well is that you get a better screen with it. So you get Apple's XDR display, which essentially it's basically their term for a mini LED display. So the Air comes with a standard LCD display. So this will give you a 2.5K resolution. It's a great display, but it's a standard LCD display, so it has all the problems that the normal LCD displays have. This is not me saying the Air's got a bad screen. I've got an Air, it's got a great screen, but the Pro is another level. This mini LED screen for watching films on, doing video editing looks fantastic. So you should get the Pro if you're doing any video work, anything like that. The Pro screen is the best one to go for. The Pro also gives you more ports. So you've got an SD card reader on it, you've got more Thunderbolt ports, you've got a HDMI output. So all these things, if you're using it as a creative, a photographer, videographer, taking it out and about day to day, this will help you connect it to devices and you'll find it much easier. So with the Air, I had to buy a USB external hub because it only comes with 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, which is fine for everyday use around the home. But if you're using it out the house as a creative, then it won't be enough. You'll end up with an external hub and it will be overheating. So get the Pro with its more ports, its better screen, and it's essentially overall better form factor for creative. You do lose an inch on the screen, so it is a 14-inch screen rather than 15. The 16-inch model of the Pro starts to get ridiculously expensive. So it starts at $2,499, goes up to $3,499. So I'd only recommend the 16-inch model if you want to use it at home and not go for the 16-inch model to carry around. It weighs an absolute ton. So the 14-inch model is the best one for portability. It is slightly heavier than the Air, but you get all those extra features for the similar money. So just have a look at both in the shop and decide what's better for you. But that's my recommendation over the Air and the Pro laptops. Another question people will be asking is what CPU should they spec in their Pro laptop? You have 3 choices of CPU. You can either go for the standard M4 chip, the M4 Pro, or the M4 Max. So in the studio this week, I've had the M4 standard chip in the iMac in. I've also had an M4 Pro chip in the Mac Mini, and I've compared both together. I've done a guide on this online. I've said initially the M4 chip in the iMac performs really well. It does everything I need it to do. It renders video really well because the iMac has a fan in it. So I have not, for my job as a video creator and professional photographer, videographer, it performs fine. I can render 4K 60 streams, I can do complex timelines, and I struggle to break the M4 standard chip. If you want to future-proof and you know you do a lot of coding, you use your laptop all day, you power through it, you do a lot of intensive tasks, then go for the M4 Pro. That starts at $199. and that'll give you that bit more power. The M4 Max chip is probably overkill at the moment for most people, but it will give you the ultimate CPU performance. And if money's no object, go for it, fine. But I wouldn't recommend it for most people at the time, because the performance on the M4 chip and the M4 Pro chip is so good that I can't see a need for the M4 Max chip at the moment, unless you're doing 3D rendering, anything like that. Then you maybe will need it if you do multiple tasks at the same time. So say you want a video edit, you want a photo edit, and you want to do 3D rendering and coding all at the same time, then the Max chip may be the one for you. I've not tried that, but from my experience, the M4 chip and the M4 Pro chip are the ones to look at. Now let's move on to Apple's desktop range of computers. So we have the iMac, which has just been upgraded to the M4, and the Mac Mini, which has also been upgraded to the M4. There is the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio. I don't want to cover this in this buying guide because I think they are for professional use only. I will touch on them. So without further ado, let's get into the iMac video. Who is the iMac for? So it is the most elegant, sleek, all-in-one desktop on the market at the moment, in my opinion. You have a range of about 7 or 8 different colors. I went for the blue one. It looks fantastic. It's made of aluminium. It feels really solid. It has a 4K Retina display. It now comes as standard because of Apple AI. There's 16 gigabytes of RAM, so you can start. The range kicks off at 1299, but I would not recommend you go for this 1299 model. Why is that? Because the 1299 model comes with a cut down CPU version of the M4 CPU. So essentially you lose a couple of cores out of the CPU. So what does that mean for you? So what it will happen is when you're doing multiple tabs or multiple tasking, because you've got less cores, you will get less performance. So the computer will be more or less future-proofed. If you are just doing word processing on it as an office-based computer, then fine, it might be worth considering. A company might buy a bulk of them for a good price, anything like that. You also lose a number of ports on the back. So the 1299 iMac comes with 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports on it, Thunderbolt 4 ports on it. If you go for the 1499 Mac, which is the model I would recommend for most people, you get 4 ports, you get double the amount of ports on there. You also get an gigabit Ethernet connection on the power supply, which is very neat. So you have the option of plugging in a wired internet connection. I mean, a lot of people might not be bothered about that, but it is useful if you want the option to do it in the future. You never know, you might. The 1499 model comes with a 256 gigabyte of storage and a 16 gigabytes of RAM. So you don't get any more storage, any more RAM. You get the same amount. You just get the upgraded, unbinned CPU. So I would go, if you're looking at the base model, start at 1499. Then you can go up to 1699 to upgrade the memory, which gives you 512 gigabytes of storage. That's the model I chose because I do a lot of video editing. My advice would be not to go too crazy on the specifications, so don't up it too much. You can increase the memory, the hard drive, increase the RAM if you need it, if you know you need more for video or photo editing. I've got 16 gigabytes. I've been running Adobe Premiere Pro, Adobe After Effects. I've had no problems running both together. It seems to run absolutely fine. So if you want to spec it up more, my advice would be to buy an external SSD. So I bought a Crucial X10 Pro, or 2 terabyte external SSD for I think it was £140. This is excellent performance. It has Thunderbolt 3 or 4 transfer speeds, so you can use it in Adobe Premiere Pro as your main hard drive. You don't need to swap it over. It's great. So that is a lot cheaper option than going for the Apple's insane storage prices. If you've got the money and you want the sleek all-in-one look, then fine, spec it up. But if you want to save a bit of cash, go for an external SSD. That's my advice. So my last tip on the iMac buying guide is don't spec the RAM as high as you think you might need. Because of the efficiency of Apple's new M4 chip, I don't think we need as much RAM as we used to. So 8 gigabytes was not enough. 16 gig is fine for most people. I've got 24 gigabytes in the Mac Mini and 16 gigabytes in the iMac, and I think they perform really well. I've had no problems with the iMac doing what I do on the Mac Mini. So please think about what you do with it and don't spend too much money on the RAM upgrade. We've been over the hard drive, so look at the external SSD. Now let's move on to the Mac Mini. The Mac Mini has recently also been given a refresh to the M4 chip and the M4 Pro chip. So I was umming and ahhing about which one to buy. So at the starting price, you can buy a Mac Mini for $599, which is excellent value for money. So if you think about what you've got for $599, so you've got an M4 chip, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabyte hard drive, and all these Thunderbolt ports in the back. It doesn't get Thunderbolt 5, but it gets Thunderbolt 4. This is really, really good value. For £599, you can have a very, very powerful desktop. If you already have an external monitor, a keyboard, decent keyboard and mouse, you just want something to give you a boost in speed to do creative work on, everyday office work, anything like that, this Mac Mini is the one to go for, the 599 model. So again, instead of spending a fortune on the hard drive, why not just buy an SSD? A fast SSD, plug it in, it's never going to go anywhere, it's on your desk all day anyway, so just plug it into an external hard drive. That'll save you hundreds of pounds, even up to £1,000 on Apple's insane storage prices on the external, on buying the going up to a couple of terabytes. So that's my advice: is get the base model 599 Mac Mini. It does go up to, so the model I chose was the Mac Mini M4 Pro. So I'm kind of regretting this decision because I assume, because I'm a creative, I do lots of video work, I do lots of photo work, that I would need a Mac Mini with the M4 Pro chip in it and the 24 gigabytes of RAM. I was wrong. The iMac performs the same as the Mac Mini. My Mac has the 16 gigabytes of RAM with the M4 Pro chip in it, so it's got a lot less on paper, a lot less power. The M4 Pro chip in the Mac Mini, so far for me, does not perform any better. So I've not noticed the difference. I am keeping both, because I want to do a long-term test on these, and I want to do more. I want to push this M4 Pro harder and harder. I haven't even been able to get, the fan does come on when you render video and it just get a bit warm. I think it's just as warm as the iMac, but essentially I've not been able to break the M4 Pro chip in it, and I've seen other reviewers say the same thing, that they cannot break this chip. The cooling system's new, it is really good. I think my advice for using it for music production, as I said in my earlier video, is it does have fan noise, but it's very limited, but you can hear it. So if you're worried about that, try it out in the shop, push it as hard as you can, or try and get someone who's got one. If you want some advice on that, pop down comments below, and I'm happy to give you advice on what the fan noise is like on it, if you think about using it for music. I think for music it is a good device to choose, because the fan noise isn't as loud as you might think, but just be wary there is some noise there. So essentially that is my buying guide. So we've been over the MacBooks, we've been over the two desktops, and I said I would leave them. So I say the Mac Studio sits on its own little pedestal. It's a big unit, it's got enormous fans on the back of it. It's meant you can spec it up to silly money. You can spend over £6,000 on it, I think, if you want to, or maybe even £7,000. But I think at the moment it has an M2 Ultra chip in it, which performs the same as the M4 Pro chip. So I think the Mac Mini is going to be fine for most people. If you know you need the Studio, then that's fine. That is for you. But I think Apple's sales in the Studio are going to decline quite substantially over the coming months if they don't up it, because it needs the upgraded chip in it now. But you can bump it to higher RAM height. So if you need the Studio for what you know you need it for, then fine, that's fine. But for the average user, average personal user buying these devices, I think the iMac, the Mac Air, the MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini are the ones you should look at. I hope this guide was helpful. If there's anything I've missed, let me know in the comments below. If there's anything else you'd like to see. I am going to do a holiday season gift guide later on, so I'm going to try and put some tech products together that I use in the studio, and it might be useful if you've got a tech lover in your life or anyone like that, then they might be useful for them for you to buy a gift for them. I'll go over different budget ranges and keep it simple. So thank you for watching as usual. Please give me the subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. I really, really appreciate anyone who's subscribed. I got a few new subscribers over the past few 24 hours. I really appreciate it. It's helping build the channel. Thank you so much. Keep subscribing, keep giving me a thumbs up, and start commenting on the videos. Thank you very much.